Commissioner Gray. I'm well. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August 31st, 2022 Public Service Commission meeting. And welcome to everybody. It's the end of the summer, and I guess all the kids are heading back to school, and good luck to all the moms and dads out there. I see that Wayne is in the room, and I just wanted to say that I saw a really great document from the federal government praising Wayne and his team for all the good work they've done on behalf of the state of Delaware. So Wayne, I'd just like you to say thank you on behalf of the commission. And I mentioned team, so obviously not everything can happen just with Wayne and Bob and Chavez. We also, Crystal, I'm not sure if Crystal's out there, but Crystal was a big help to the team in terms of the audit. And so wherever you are, Crystal, hopefully you can hear me and hear us, and thank you so much for your help. And Chavez and Bob Shafrin are inspecting pipelines as we speak, so they're not here to accept any congratulations, but I'm sure somebody will relay to them that we extend our appreciation and thanks to them for their fine work. The reading of the meeting minutes, we have the minutes of August 10th, 2022. Are there any changes or corrections to the meeting minutes? Commissioner Gray.
Mr. Chair, I move that the minutes from the last meeting be adopted as submitted.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 5 ayes. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. There's now 3 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to have a matter taken off of the consent agenda? Commissioner Correa.
I move that we adopt consent agenda.
Second the motion?
Any discussion on the motion to approve the consent agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 5 ayes. The motion carries. The regular agenda. The first thing on the regular agenda is the matter of the filing of Delmarva Power's 2022-2024 Infrastructure Safety and Rehabilitation Plan, PSC docket number 22-0320. And we have Ms. Dawn Crompton here, and would you be kind enough to introduce your fellow worker?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce my colleague. This is Solomon David. He has just joined Delmarva Power. He comes from private practice, both at Dwayne Morris or Reed Smith. Dwayne Morris and then Stevens and Lee. He'll be assisting Brian and myself in Delaware, as well as helping out our New Jersey team a little bit as well.
Welcome aboard, Solomon. I just want to know, did your parents know you're going to be a lawyer when they named you? Okay. Please proceed, Dawn.
Thank you, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. Again, Dawn Kurtz Crompton on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. I'm here today to provide some comments regarding the company's final version of its annual Electric Infrastructure, Safety, and Reliability Plan, also known as an ISR plan, pursuant to Title 26 of the Administrative Code, Section 3007, Subsection 6. The ISR plan is part of the broader Distribution System Planning, or DSP, process. Now that the parties have engaged in this process for a third year, the Commission is aware that its present role is to review and acknowledge the plan in accordance with subsection 6.3.5 of the regulations, and that Commission acknowledgement does not constitute pre-approval of any of Delmarva's proposed capital spending. As stated in the joint comments at page 6, staff and DPA acknowledge that, quote, Delmarva complied with the regulations mandates, close quote, and is further supported in ordering paragraph 1 of proposed order 10090, Delmarva's ISR plan is appropriate for Commission acknowledgement. By way of brief background, on March 17, 2002, Delmarva submitted the required guidelines, and on March 31, we submitted our 3-year proposed ISR plan with exhibits as required by subsection 6.2.1. Delmarva engaged in a discovery review process with DPA staff and staff's consultant, Gregory R. Booth, PLLC. Through this review process, the company provided the parties with access to confidential data, met with the parties through emails and conference calls, responded to data requests and document requests, prepared presentations on certain substations, and provided requested documents on a rolling basis. In addition, Delmarva and the parties held 2 meetings to discuss the content of the ISR plan. On July 29, Delmarva filed its final ISR plan. On August 8, staff and DPA filed their joint comments, which included Exhibit A, a memorandum by Mr. Booth, which I will refer to as the Booth memo in my comments. Delmarva filed its reply comments 10 days later as required on August 18. As an initial matter, I would like to address, for the second year in a row, a troublesome request that was made in the joint comments. Namely, the joint comments request that this commission take unwarranted and illegitimate action to reduce the company's budget and to cap its anticipated spending. As this commission is well aware, the duly promulgated regulations do not contemplate or authorize any such action, and it is disconcerting that the joint comments would again propose such action under the auspices of distribution system planning. Moreover, as stated on page 7 of our reply comments, such action would be tantamount to a deprivation of due process of law, insofar as regulated entities are entitled to, quote, consistent application of regulations without arbitrary or discriminatory enforcement by government officials, close quote. As discussed in our reply comments, the ISR plan is an opportunity for Delmarva to provide a line of sight into its proposed capital spending necessary to maintain the reliability and quality of its distribution services, and was not contemplated to provide consultants, staff, or DPA with an opportunity to dictate how Delmarva operates its distribution system. The DSP process regulations were promulgated just over 2 years ago on April 11th, 2020, and were the outcome of an extensive months-long working group process between DPA, staff, and Delmarva. As stated in our reply comments, Delmarva is balancing competing objectives throughout its rigorous planning and project authorization process. But because Delmarva bears the ultimate responsibility for the reliability and performance of its systems, Delmarva must maintain the authority for distribution system planning, as well as the investment decisions it deems necessary to provide safe and reliable service and meet stakeholder expectations. The company must also demonstrate that its investments meet the business judgment rule, but that requirement arises only after 2 things happen. First, Delmarva has to make actual expenditures, and second, Delmarva has to come before this commission and seek recovery of any such investments in rates, either via rate case or in a DSIC filing. That said, I do not intend to engage in a debate about each project set forth in the ISR and addressed in the joint comments and addressed in the reply comments. This is not the time or place for that. Rather, I would just like to reiterate a few key points from our reply comments, including planning and project prioritization, BCAs or benefit cost analyses, NWAs or non-wires alternatives, and then finally grid modernization. So with respect to planning and project prioritization, like many other utilities across the nation, Delmarva has been addressing novel challenges in recent years, including higher customer focus on reliability as remote working continues, electrification of vehicles proliferates, supply chain constraints impact our daily lives, and as we experience ever-increasing storm activity and intensity, in addition to rising inflationary pressures. These are challenging times, and in order to continually meet evolving customer expectations and devise solutions for these pressing issues, Delmarva must maintain authority over its DSP process to ensure that adequate infrastructure exists to reliably supply electric service to all customers at a reasonable overall cost. Our work must also be consistent with the goals of safety, reliability, quality of service, as well as service to the community and protection of the environment. Because the ISR plan must account for many various priorities from many different business areas over the term of several years, The ISR plan budget must flex with actual system needs as those projects come to fruition or as other emergent needs arise during the 3-year time period set forth in the ISR plan. And because many of Delmarva's projects are long lead time projects that must commence much sooner than when the need is forecasted, Delmarva's planning requires specialized judgment and flexibility to shift projects into closer years as circumstances may warrant. With respect to project authorization, as outlined on pages 8 through 10 of our final ISR plan, Delmarva provides great detail about the company's rigorous 3-phase project authorization process consisting of project design, review, and implementation. Indeed, Delmarva has a long list of modernization and reliability projects that it would like to plan for and add to the budget each and every year, but we must prioritize which projects to include based on our rigorous evaluation process. For that reason, if a project in the ISR is delayed, then the company may employ its business judgment to accelerate another high-priority project within that same year. Any inattention to these critical system needs could result in backsliding in reliability due to continually aging infrastructure, vegetation growth, damage from elements during storms, and lack of system maintenance. The joint comments also contend that Delmarva engages in gold plating. Delmarva does not engage in excessive and unnecessary investments, but instead carefully plans and manages its spend to provide the reliable service that its customers expect and that Delmarva is obligated to provide. Adhering to a budget is one of the ways that the company ensures operational efficiencies and cost containment. The company does establish a capital spend budget, which in practice serves as a limiter to all of the improvements that the company would ideally like to make. As noted in our reply comments on pages 16 and 20, the capital budgets do not include sufficient funds to complete all of the identified projects in our reliability portfolios. Moving on to benefit cost analyses. They are generally not appropriate for traditional utility investments. The joint comments take issue with Delmarva's BCA process, and while BCAs can be a useful tool for utilities to demonstrate that an investment has greater benefit than the proposed cost, conducting a BCA is a costly and time-consuming endeavor that is generally used when evaluating non-traditional technologies or initiatives that have not been previously presented to the Commission. For traditional utility investments, the company implements its rigorous internal process to determine quantifiable and non-quantifiable project benefits, as well as determine the most cost-effective long-term solutions. Switching now to non-wires alternatives. The joint comments assert that, quote, Delmarva should be required to incorporate NWAs for all projects in excess of $1 million. That is the Booth memo at page 31. The company agrees that NWAs are a tool, like many other potential opportunities, to address system issues, but disagrees with an approach that requires Delmarva to evaluate NWAs for all projects based on a dollar threshold. Delmarva instead considers NWAs when a specific system constraint has been identified and for capacity and/or major asset condition projects in excess of $1 million. As such, it is inappropriate to implement a one-size-fits-all approach to evaluating NWAs, and more learning must be undertaken to better understand when, where, and how the NWA process and an NWA solution can be deployed effectively. Accordingly, it would be inappropriate for the Commission to mandate NWAs in connection with DSP. Lastly, Delmarva's planning process includes grid modernization strategies. Grid modernization is a broad term and can be associated with many strategies, such as integrating distributed energy resources, as well as investing in technologies such as advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI. While there is interest from stakeholders and utilities in investing in new technologies, such as distributed resources, or NWAs, Delmarva needs to strike an appropriate balance between costs to consumers and novel and frequently unproven technologies that are designed to enhance grid readiness. All of these inputs are factored into Delmarva's robust project prioritization process. As stated in our reply comments at pages 22 to 24, Delmarva has taken steps to integrate grid modernization strategies, including replacing power transformers, switchgear, replacing distribution transformers, replacing underground cable, poles, installing reclosers, installing automatic sectionalizing and restoration, or ASR, schemes, and installing smart sensors. These investments benefit customers by making the grid smarter and better able to integrate distributed energy resources, such as rooftop solar, and to support increasing amounts of electrification of transportation and other beneficial uses, such as reduction of outage impacts. The company appreciates staff, and particularly Mr. Slater's continued interest in grid modernization and the focus on designing distribution infrastructure to accommodate innovative technologies and optimize existing system investments. As such, while there is not necessarily a blueprint or industry best practice for a grid modernization plan, the company acknowledges that it would be beneficial to provide a comprehensive overview of its grid modernization efforts to date, and therefore has committed to providing that information in connection with the final LRDP plan that will be filed this October. In conclusion, even in light of the various challenges facing our state and nation, including an increased expectation of reliability and electrification, as well as many other moving targets such as climate change, development of new technologies, increased distributed resources, and alternative energy sources, Delmarva and utilities around the country are and will continue to be faced with unique challenges and opportunities in a relatively short period of time for an industry. The capital investments and programs set forth in the final ISR plan have been proposed to ensure the continued safe and reliable operation of Delmarva's system, especially under stressed conditions. In addition, these capital investments are needed to strengthen Delmarva's distribution system to facilitate and accommodate modern technologies such as DERs, including EVs, that require higher reliability to achieve maximum benefit for our customers. As previously stated, the company bears the ultimate responsibility for the reliability and performance of a system, and therefore Delmarva must maintain the authority for its distribution system planning. Delmarva Power has been a Delaware corporation since 1909 and has dutifully delivered power safely and reliably to Delawareans for over 113 years. Delmarva Power and its employees are rightfully proud of our efforts in providing reliable, clean, affordable, and innovative energy products to our customers in Delaware, and we respectfully request that the Commission acknowledge the 2022 to 2024 ISR plan as consistent with all requirements in the regulations and approve Order 10090 as presented to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crompton. Ms. Pope, or is Ms. Iori going to speak on behalf of both, or both are going to
Thank you,
speak?
Chairman. Ms. Iori is going to speak on behalf of both of us today.
Thank you, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners. I'm sure you've heard of the book, A Tale of Two Cities. This would appear to be a tale of two reports, because what you just heard is not what we got out of it. The driving purpose behind the regulations was the concern about the ever-increasing amounts that Delmarva was plowing into infrastructure in what appeared to be an attempt to increase its rate base and therefore increase earnings. That concern was not new. It was a concern back as far as 2013, when Commission staff filed a petition with the Commission to investigate Delmarva's infrastructure spending, and when the DPA challenged Delmarva's infrastructure spending as unsupported by any cost-benefit analyses in docket 13-115. We hope that the Commission's issuance of the regulations would lead to more collaboration and cooperation with Delmarva regarding what infrastructure spending was necessary, whether it was adequately justified, and whether there were less expensive alternatives that Delmarva could implement. Now, as you've heard from Ms. Crompton, this electric distribution ISR plan is the third one that Delmarva has filed since the Commission promulgated the regulations for distribution planning. And it is now crystal clear to the DPA and staff that Delmarva has no intention of doing anything more than paying lip service to the regulations. Delmarva gets a budget from Exelon, and it spends up to that budget. It performs no cost-benefit analyses. It does not meaningfully consider non-wires alternatives. It chooses its preferred methodologies and actions to meet its dollar spend. and staff and the DPA are beyond frustrated. For 3 straight years, we have hired a consultant who is well-versed in distribution planning and specifically in implementing alternatives that will resolve problems without jeopardizing reliability. Indeed, this consultant has worked in other jurisdictions to implement less expensive solutions that mitigate and sometimes eliminate the need for the more costly solution that the utility identified. And for 3 straight years, Delmarva has thumbed its nose at us. Oh, it participates in the conference calls and the Zoom meetings, and it responds to data requests. But at the end of the day, the response is always the same. Nope, not taking any of your suggestions. And what has this increased spending achieved in reliability? Very little. In fact, Delmarva achieved greater improvements in reliability as measured by SAIDI and SAFE, which are the metrics that this commission has approved to be used, when it was subject to the spending caps that the commission imposed as part of the merger settlement, than it has since the spending caps came off. That's on page 7 of our comments, which reproduced Table 6 from the consultant's report. And if that's not bad enough for ratepayers, Delmarva's ISR plan shows that it intends to increase spending from 2019 levels by 105%, 118%, and 155% over the 2022 through 2024 period. That's on page 6 of our comments, reproducing Table 5 from our consultant's report. Delmarva's ratepayers simply are not benefiting from this increased and excessive spending. All it is doing is gold-plating the system, despite Delmarva's protestations to the contrary, so that Delmarva's rate base will increase and shareholder earnings will increase, which is in line with what Exelon is telling its investors. We're going to increase rate base so that we can achieve 6 to 8% annual earnings growth. These capital additions are necessary to meet that goal. And it's not just happening in Delaware. The Maryland Commission, which regulates Delmarva's Maryland operations, as well as other Exelon utilities, has recognized and expressed concern about ever-increasing capital spend. An example is the Maryland Commission's order number 89868 in case number 9655 regarding PEPCO. In that order, the Maryland Public Service Commission expressed concern about PEPCO's capital spending, finding that PEPCO had exceeded its reliability targets in 2018, 2019, and 2020, despite being awarded half of the amount it had requested. Our comments obviously struck a nerve, especially given all the adjectives we heard. Staff and the DPA are aware that this is not the forum for the commission to approve or disapprove capital spending. And we didn't ask the commission to do so here, despite Delmarva's insinuation to the contrary. But we do think it's important to bring these issues to the commission's attention before Delmarva files its next electric rate case, which we have been told will be toward the end of this year or the beginning of next year. We know this commission has high regard for Delmarva, but that high regard and Delmarva's constant repetition of the reliability and business judgment buzzwords should not blind the commission to what's going on. Delmarva's not doing cost-benefit analyses for any projects, even though that is a standard part of distribution planning. Delmarva's not preparing rate impact analyses, even though that's a standard part of distribution planning, and even though Delmarva calculates rate impacts for rate cases, and in fact did so in its just-filed GCR application. Delmarva's not considering cost-effective solutions, even though that's a standard part of distribution planning. Delmarva has a monopoly to provide distribution service. Ratepayers have no choice to get this service from another provider. So staff and the DPA respectfully submit that with that monopoly comes an obligation to control the cost of providing reliable service. And we respectfully request the Commission to make that obligation clear, not just to Delmarva, but to all of the regulated utilities. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Iori. we have a motion to approve the order so we can discuss it?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve proposed order 10090 as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Gosh, how's that start? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And so this sort of apropos for the situation, you know, when this first came up, we had high expectations that there would be an increase in communications between the staff, DPA, and the company, and that things would be smooth. It would be the best of times. On the other hand, I recognize that Delmarva has got to independently come up with its own plan for its infrastructure and its capital plans. And they have that right, and to be honest with you, I'm not really good at distribution planning. So I assume we're going to approve, obviously, what's happening today. But I know when I had an opportunity, Matt and I went over to talk to the board, this was one of the things we discussed was the fact that we wanted the company to look closely at its capital plan because of some of the comments we've been hearing and percolating up about the amount of money being spent versus the return in terms of benefit to the consumers. You know, we're always concerned about raising the consumer's cost without them fully appreciating the benefits that they're getting. In other words, we don't like to have sharp rate increases. So anybody's welcome, any commissioner's welcome to speak about this situation, but I just hope that there's as a result of this discussion today, that there's a renewed commitment to communications, and I'm sure the company will listen because obviously if the way things work is that it gets to us and then we have to make the tough decisions, and you know, I hope that there's a lot of communications and collaboration and agreement, and you send us a softball, but I doubt it. But I'm hoping for it because that'll be the worst of times when we have an argument over the distribution. So, okay, anybody else have any comments they'd like to make?
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yeah, Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, and thanks for the materials, the presentation. I have a question from Mr. Crompton. Are any of the impacts from the required must-run facility at Indian River factored into your plan moving forward? Is that a part of the scope of something you've looked at or find that you are impacted by in terms of putting this plan together?
With respect to the Indian Run, that is more of a transmission issue, is my understanding, whereas this pertains to our distribution system planning. So while all of these factors are clearly interrelated, this plan really references more of our distribution system planning within the state of Delaware.
Okay, so another question I have. Any potential to use the infrastructure federal funds to defray some of your infrastructure investments from being passed along to ratepayers?
There are a number of discussions that are currently ongoing with respect to these infrastructure funds, or what we're calling IIJA colloquially. And I know that there has been some initial engagement with staff and DPA on where the company plans to seek dollars from those funds. And so I know that those plans are being developed right now. I think the short answer is probably yes, but I think because of the complexity of seeking these funds, the company is targeting specific areas to focus on, and I don't know that that's yet been decided. So I wouldn't want to represent that it will have an impact on distribution system planning specifically, but certainly the end goal is to reduce the costs that the Delmarva ratepayers will have to pay by utilizing these funds.
So if yes, then I would be curious to have you quantify what that means to the Delaware ratepayer once you get to that kind of a number.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's all still kind of out there in the ether right now, but your request is understood, Your Honor.
Okay, so a couple of comments. From a practical business perspective and experience, my view is one can expect to get the behaviors which are incentivized So are there currently any monetary return on investment incentives or revenue incentives for non-wires, alternatives, or cost-benefit analyses? Any ROI impacts or returns that could come from non-wires alternatives or from cost-benefit analyses? Because when you invest capital, there is a return on that investment. And I'm just pointing out that that is an incentive to look at the capital hard money put out. Now, we're very interested in the grid, you know, the distribution grid of the future, which may have non-wires alternatives. We're interested in the cost-benefit analyses, but if that's not going to pay an investment return, then what I'm pointing out is there may just simply be no incentive in our rulemaking or in the statutes that drives Delmarva down that lane.
And I would agree with that, Your Honor. I think what we're saying is that we will utilize a BCA when we think that, you know, they say the juice is worth the squeeze, but these are really complicated projects. These BCA are time-consuming, they're costly, and so we don't implement a BCA for traditional utility investments. Same thing with NWAs. Those are being considered not only by utilities, but also by third parties. And so we're investigating what role each entity plays in enhancing the grid and modernizing the grid. So as I mentioned in my comments, these are novel issues that are constantly changing and evolving. And so we're working through those things. And certainly we would like to have an impact to the ROI at the end of the day, but that is something that is factored and balanced in many different ways.
Okay, one more comment. As I think about scope, our standing authority, and prescriptive risks to this commission, I'm not a distribution planner either, and I wouldn't want to be held accountable for driving Delmarva down a lane that didn't work out in terms of reliability and safety. So I'll yield back to the chair on the basis that we likely will adopt this order as submitted. Mr. Chair, that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Ms. Iori, did you have a comment?
Oh, I do. But I'll restrict myself to just one. With respect to cost-benefit analyses, don't let Delmarva fool you. They're not uncommon. Most other utilities do them. And if they're expensive, I don't know why they would be more expensive for Exelon with its economies of scale than it would be for other utilities.
Mr. Slater?
On the federal tax point, I'm not aware that Exelon has applied for anything, or Delmarva specifically.
I think that's in process. That's my understanding from the board, that's in process.
Your Honor, I'm not as close to the IIJA processes, but I do understand that things are moving. They're just still refining their targets to seek funding.
What I believe is going on, Mr. Slater, is that they've got multiple jurisdictions and they're trying to be very careful in, you know, making their application for the federal funds to be appropriate with respect to each jurisdiction. And I believe the deadline is not too far in the future for the filing of those. So I guess very soon we should hear something from Delmarva. I don't know what the deadline is, but my understanding is fairly soon.
I'm not certain either, Your Honor. I apologize.
Mr. Hardigan.
Thanks, Chairman Winslow. I just wanted to interject that the company is scheduled to come in on October 12th at our meeting for a State of the Company presentation, so that might be an opportunity to share whatever information they may have at that time.
Thank you, Matt. Any further discussion on the motion?
I just have a comment, and I appreciate Delmarva's attention and maintenance of strong reliability. We can't underestimate that we enjoy reliability here in Delaware. I know in other states that's not true. I am in touch with the Connecticut, many people in Connecticut who have problems with reliability every day. So I think that that's an important thing, and we appreciate and respect the work that you do to continue to provide reliable service that I enjoy and I think everybody here enjoys. as a Delmarva client. And that's important, but I also do want to commend staff and the DPA for its comments, specifically with regard to the importance of rate impacts, retail rate impacts of different projects and CBAs as well. I mean, those are important things that we bottom line this all the time, and so we're going to be looking at that, I think, in the future, but with a careful eye on the important projects that Delmarva does to keep that reliability that's so important. And I thank you all.
Anybody else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That's 5 ayes. Thank you very much, Ms. Compton, Ms. Iori, Ms. Pope. Okay, number 2 is in the matter of the application of Delmarva Power and Light Company's 2022 transmission formula rate. Docket 22-0587 and proposed order 10092.
Thank you, Chair Winslow. Commissioners, again, Dawn Kurtz Crompton on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. Joining me on the phone is Michael Normand, who is the Manager of Rate Administration for Pepco Holdings, Inc. He is available if the Commission has any substantive questions concerning the rate. Before I get started with my prepared comments, I just wanted to take a step back and acknowledge that Executive Director Matt Hartigan has been in contact with the company, and I believe Your Honor has as well, with respect to some concerns about the transmission formula rate. And I wanted to let this commission know that Delmarva is sharpening its pencils, not only in Delaware, but our transmission team that is primarily running the process in Maryland is looking very closely at this issue and trying to figure out ways that we can potentially accelerate to minimize the impacts to Delaware ratepayers. This is a very complex transmission project, as you're aware, and there's a lot of bureaucracy that needs to be worked through in Maryland in order to proceed and get the transmission installed in order to alleviate some of these concerns. I wanted to just assure the Commission and Mr. Hartigan that the company is investigating every option. This has our full attention. There's only so much we can do with respect to how quickly we can move things along. We are keeping an eye on issues like supply chain interruptions and things of that nature as we prepare kind of the best path forward. I understand that somebody from our regulatory team will soon be in touch in order to set up an additional meeting to kind of give some more concrete proposals for how we plan to proceed. But I just wanted to reiterate to this commission and to Mr. Hartigan that this does have the full attention, and we understand the kind of unfortunate situation that the Indian Run RMR plant is kind of presenting to all of us. So with that said, I'd like to proceed. You've been presented today with proposed order number 10092, which approves Delmarva's application to revise its transmission service charge for both standard office service, fixed price service, and hourly price service. The proposed transmission service charge is based on the company's 2022 annual update to the Network Integrated Transmission Service rate, as shown in the informational filing made with FERC on May 13, 2022. The application implements the procedure for establishing retail transmission rates as set forth in order number 6746, dated October 11, 2005, and PSC docket number 04-391. That settlement established a pass-through mechanism that permits Delmarva to establish transmission rates for retail customers that mirror the transmission rates that PJM charges to Delmarva under the FERC requirements. Staff issued discovery to Delmarva in connection with this finding, and as noted in staff's memos, the primary drivers for the transmission rate increase are as follows. First, the Indian River 4 Reliability Must Run contract between PJM and NRG represents the largest increase in the transmission rate, and it accounts for approximately 90% of the overall increase. Secondly, operations and maintenance increase represents about $2.8 million. Third, depreciation and amortization increases of $1.9 million, and income tax increases of $2.6 million. And lastly, a roll-off of the 2020 true-up includes a credit of $5.4 million. Proposed order number 10092 approves Delmarva's proposed rates for transmission service charges and SOS fixed price and hourly priced service offerings, effective with usage on and after September 13, 2022. As set forth in the staff memo, a typical residential customer using 848 kilowatt hours in a summer month should see an increase of $6.45, or approximately 5.49% to their monthly bill. Delmarva thanks staff for its preparation of the memo and proposed order and appreciates the opportunity to comment. Delmarva is in agreement with the order that has been presented to you today and accordingly respectfully requests the Commission approve order number 10092 as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. O'Brien?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Bill O'Brien on behalf of staff. We agree with Ms. Crompton's summary of the application and the proposed order. Staff did review the application, issued discovery questions. Delmarva responded, and Samuel Kane from staff, who is here today, issued his staff memorandum recommending adoption of proposed order number 10092. As you're probably aware, there's been discussion around the impact from the Indian River RMR contract. Just to note that the Commission and I believe the Public Advocate have challenged those contract rates at the FERC. We do have FERC counsel on that case, and the case is underway as we speak. Staff supports the entrance of proposed order 10092. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Ms. Iori?
Thank you, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners. Just to confirm, the DPA is also involved in the RMR FERC case involving Indian River. The DPA has no objection to the proposed form of order. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions of the parties? Mr. Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have two questions. One, as I read through this, it looks like this becomes effective on the 13th of September, or 15 days from now. Is there no lead time customer notice or communications required or intended?
I don't know the answer to either of your question, Your Honor. The rate impact, as we stated earlier, is approximately $6 for the average bill, which isn't a nothing increase, but to my knowledge, I believe that there have been some press releases on this issue, but I don't know that there have been targeted communications to customers specifically.
Okay, so there's nothing required in a scenario such as this, as lead time communication?
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. One last question. If FERC order is successfully appealed, will ratepayers be reimbursed?
I understand, and Ms. Iori or Mr. O'Brien may be able to speak better to this, as I like to limit my practice to the state of Delaware and not wander off into FERC. But it's my understanding that that order is subject to refund, which would mean that if it is successfully challenged on the FERC level, that there would be refunds that would be issued.
That's my understanding too, Commissioner Gray.
No further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
One quick question, Dawn. I don't know whether you misspoke, but it sounded to both Drew and me that you said that $6 is not nothing.
It ain't nothing, that's a double negative.
So, did you mean to say it's something?
It's something. It's $6 a month, which I understand is a significant increase given standard bills. But to my knowledge, so I apologize for the double negative. Yes, it is a $6 per month increase to the average customer's bill.
Commissioner Conaway?
I move that we adopt order number 10092 as presented.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's 5 ayes for the record. The motion carries. Ms. Crompton, thank you so much. Ms. Iori. Mr. O'Brien, thank you. Number 3 is in the matter of the revisions to the Rules of Practice and Procedure of the Delaware Public Service Commission, PSC Regulation Docket Number 99.9. And we have, to discuss this matter, Ms. Pope. and Ms. Ivory.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. Summer Pope on behalf of staff in this matter, and we thank the Commission for their time. Today, for your consideration, staff is proposing to amend rules of practice and procedure of the Delaware Public Service Commission. Upon careful review of the rules, staff and the DPA find that multiple revisions to the rules are necessary for updating and clarifying the rules going forward. As background, the rules were adopted on April 6, 1999, revised again on April 21st, 2015, and they were last revised on February 19th, 2020. Staff would like to note that the majority of the proposed changes are for updating and clarification purposes. The changes are attached to the proposed order as Exhibit A and usually are signified by either a strike-through or an underline. Unless the Commission would like for me to point out each of the proposed changes, the most notable proposed amendments include the following. Would you like me to go through each of them, or?
That wasn't a double negative. No, you were proceeding very well. Continue along that line of conversation.
Okay. All right, thank you. The first notable change was to update confidentiality procedures in Section 1.11. We wanted to update this to put the burden of proof on the person challenging a claim of confidentiality to better align with FOIA. As it reads now, there's a burden on the person claiming a confidential treatment to file a petition with the Commission to recognize it as confidential. Staff's proposed amendments place the burden on the person challenging the confidentiality designation to request a ruling from the Commission for a confidential designation, and the person claiming the confidentiality must be able to demonstrate that the designated information is exempt from public disclosure in accordance with FOIA. Next, the most notable change is to update discovery procedures in Section 2.6 of the rules, which I believe Ms. Iori can speak on.
Wow, that was quick. Wasn't expecting to get to me that fast. Okay, starting with subsection 2.6.2, and this is all with respect to discovery procedures. We have proposed this change because staff and the DPA have found that rolling discovery is very helpful. It allows for faster follow-up on responses and permits multiple rounds of discovery as responses come in. We first implemented rolling discovery in docket number 20-0149 after staff and DPA consultants asked council to ask for it. And despite a few hiccups, we thought it was superior to the previous method we used for discovery. And we've used it in the current Delmarva gas rate case without a problem. So this proposed change would make rolling discovery the default mode of discovery. However, the hearing examiner, upon request by any party, could provide for a different form of discovery. In Section 2.6.3, this proposed change simply requires parties issuing to discovery to provide their discovery in Word format to the person to whom the discovery is directed, so they don't have to retype all the questions. Subsection 2.6.6, this proposed change sets a 15 calendar day turnaround for discovery in expedited matters such as rate cases, Section 215 applications, CPCN applications, or distribution planning matters. There may be other expedited matters to which this would apply, but they don't come to mind at the moment. Because there are either statutorily or regulation-imposed deadlines for these matters, if there is discovery, it needs a faster turnaround than the previous 30-day provision. And finally, subsection 2.6.7, this proposed change is to hopefully fix a problem that arose in a recent rate case. There was a discovery dispute that took several months to resolve and did result in pushing back deadlines when, having to put together a new schedule. This proposed change institutes a procedure with deadlines to bring a discovery dispute to the hearing examiner's attention so that a discovery dispute doesn't throw a schedule completely off course. And that's all I have. So back to you, Summer.
Thank you. The next notable change that we have here is an update to the interlocutory appeals to the commission in section 2.16. Right now, the timeframe there is 3 days, and staff and DPA believe that 7 days is more beneficial to everyone involved to issue or to appeal for an interlocutory appeal. I believe actually right now the Supreme Court's rules 10 days. So this is still in alignment with the Supreme Court, and I think that having additional time for an appeal like that would be beneficial. So staff believes that the proposed changes would improve the rules and streamline the procedure. And we now motion for the commission to reopen regulation docket 99-9 and accordingly direct the commission secretary, Ms. Nickerson, to transmit a copy of this order and the attached exhibits to the registrar or to the registrar for publication in the October 1st, 2022 edition of the Delaware Register of Regulations, and also to issue public notice of the proposed regulations in accordance with Title 29, Section 10115, to be published by October 1st, 2022. Staff thanks the commission for their consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Correa?
I move that we adopt the order number 10094 to open the regulation docket.
Second the motion?
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That was 5 ayes. For the record, the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Pope, Ms. Iori. Number 4 is in the matter of the petition of the Delaware Division of the Public Advocate for a temporary reduction in the water rates of Tidewater Utilities, Inc., pending the final determination of just and reasonable rates. Ms. Iori.
Thank you, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners. Before you is proposed order number 10095, which we believe correctly reflects the Commission's deliberation at its August 10th meeting. I want to thank staff, council, and Tidewater Council for working together to be able to present to the Commission an uncontested form of order. And we would ask that the Commission enter proposed order number 10095.
Thank you, Ms. Iori. Ms. Scott?
Thank you, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. Pam Scott here on behalf of Tidewater. I echo what Ms. Ivory had to say. We all spent a lot of time working through to get to an order that we could all, for the most part, agree with. So that is what is before you today.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair Winslow and members of the commission. Bill O'Brien on behalf of staff, and we do agree with Ms. Iori and Ms. Scott, and agree that this form of order is uncontested.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we adopt order number 10095 as submitted, and I'll thank everyone for bringing an uncontested order to the table for us.
Indeed. I second that, both of those things.
I think that it was, I don't think uncontested was necessarily the best word, but we all agreed. Commissioners, did we get a second? I'm sorry, second? Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any further communications on it? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was 5 ayes for the record, and the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Scott, Ms. Iori, and Mr. O'Brien. And I guess next is the hearing schedule. I don't believe we have anything on the hearing schedule. And we have public comment. Looks like Ms. Crompton is going to make public comment. That's great. Okay, thank you. Wow, this is good.
I know, I just can't get enough today. I just would like a quick follow-up. I was able to receive news from the home team with respect to Commissioner Gray's question with respect to notification to customers. We do plan to provide a bill message that will run beginning on September 13. with respect to the increase, and that will run for 1 month on bill messages for customers.
Excellent. Thank you for that prompt turnaround. Appreciate that.
Wayne, do you want to say anything about your team?
Well, I want to say that, like Chavis and Bob, they're the ones doing all the legwork, as you alluded to earlier. And also, there's other people involved too, insofar as processing things, getting us ordering safety equipment. We were able to, in our request with them, get safety PPE equipment for Bob and Chavis, and fire protection equipment as far as clothing, and shirts, pants, and safety shoes, and that was good. And also, I'd like to thank the PSC for hiring a part-time seasonal administrative assistant to part of her time is to help get our excavation damage program up and running, and she's been very helpful, Judy Letterman, and so that's good, and it's going to proceed further. So, and also the DAGs helping out on NOPVs and stuff. Everybody helps out on making the pipeline safety program successful. So I can't thank everybody enough. So.
Thank you,
And
Wayne.
I'll probably list some other names out. There were some people also involved in tracking the excavation damage data coming in too.
Anybody else want to say a few words for the good of the order, or whoever the home team is? Okay, I guess not. Thank you, everyone. We're now adjourned. Except for the fact that, we forgot one of the more important people here, Mr. Hardigan, who will,
Thank you, Chairman
has a few
Winslow.
things to say.
I did want to join your compliment on Wayne's team. You know, they generally keep their head down, and Bob and Chavis do the bulk, I don't want to say the bulk of the work. I don't mean to disparage Wayne, but I mean, they're out there in the field every day, making sure that the operators are doing what they're supposed to, so we all appreciate that. Other than that, our next meeting is September 14th, which will be Mr. O'Brien's last meeting, unfortunately,
Who?
at 1 p.m.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much. We're adjourned.